Uh, Hello, puny earth creatures. It is I, StarScream, the ruler of the galaxy. I'm sure you're all quite fond of me and aware of my rulership over the galaxy. All right. I've come back to do some Ask Me Anything. And, you just go on the internet and you find me and you ask me some questions and I will answer your questions, internet. Okay. All right, you know what? I'm going to wing some of these. Wing. I'm going to wing some of these. All right, so I got a question from YouTube, a YouTuber called Horses in Heaven. And he says, question. He says, is Chrystia Freeland listening to tiny microphone buds in her ear and then speaking? From listening to the dictated speech in her head. Her halted way of speaking sounds exactly like this. With a little practice, and she's a complete mental nervous wreck. I suspect something like this is going on. All right, horses in heaven, let me explain to all those people out there who don't live in the IMF Bank land management claim formerly known as Canada. Chrystia Freeland is she's a hideous creature. Possibly a witch. I don't have first-hand knowledge on that. Chrystia Freeland is, I do believe, at this point in time, the ruler of Canada. I'm pretty sure. I mean, vestigial, but you know. As we all know from listening to StarScream News, that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went off to get married with with Emmanuel Macron, and they moved to a Caribbean island somewhere, building sandcastles. And I do believe that means that Chrystia Freeland is now the ruler of Canada. Chrystia Freeland is formerly a design artist or something, like she made some signs or something. In other words, she has absolutely zero background, which should make her perfect for ruling Canada. Now, of course, as we all know, Canada now has a law allowing Chinese military to take military actions to protect Chinese industrial assets and properties in Canada. Therefore, it's very possible that the Chinese rule Canada. I'm not sure Chrystia Freeland is going to stop them. Let me give you a let me give you another representation of Chrystia Freeland. Okay, she's kind of like if Dr. Arch Evil were to become mechanized and turn into a headmaster, and then he were to merge with Swindle. After having a sex change. All right. Oh, and Horses in Heaven says, this question was typed without a mask. How dare you? Yes, I've been avoiding most of the boogaloo. It hasn't affected me much. I tried to ride a bus recently, and the bus driver didn't understand the bylaw exemptions. Nobody understands the bylaw exemptions. They're completely ridiculous. You have to call up Bill Gates and say, hey, Bill, what's the exemptions like this week? And let me tell you something about Bill Gates, okay? He doesn't get it, okay? There's only one ruler of the galaxy, and it's me. All right. Yes, the eugenics program is coming. I keep trying to warn you people. All right, there was a question from Cherokee Dean, and he says, who's your favorite companion? Which I assume he means Transformers. Cherokee, my favorite companion, that's a good question. I think classically speaking, I like being with the other jets. So I definitely like Sky Warp and Thundercracker and Thrust and Ramjet. They're my favorites. Even sometimes Jetfire, but you know, he's got to figure himself out. He's not sure whether he's a Robotech character or not. It's kind of a double agent as far as animation is concerned. And the shutdown of, what was the name of that company? Matchbox Toys? Yeah. You know, I guess you could also say I like Bruticus. You know, Bruticus is great. You know, to have him on your side, as long as you can hold him together and keep him under control. Sometimes it's all about control. Yeah, I don't know who else to say unless I go outside the world of Transformers, which I could do easily. Let's see, I got a question from Ron Hall. And Ron says, "What are you doing with He-Man's sword?" That's a good question, Ron. Let me tell you something, Ron. If He-Man just leaves this thing lying around, you'd think that he wants somebody to just take it. And you know, I'm already the ruler of the galaxy, so it's not like I need a magic sword to turn me into anything. It's not like I need to transform. I'm a transformer. So, you know, you just take it like this and you go, I have the... Okay, no, so I'm not supposed to do that. Oh my God. That always does that. I'm thinking maybe one of these days I'm going to figure out how to make the sword work. And you know something, Ron? You shouldn't be worried what I'm doing with He-Man's sword. You should be worried about what I'm doing with She-Ra. There we go. Okay, keeping it together. Question from Andrew Krasowski. Krasowski? Sounds very Northern European there, Andrew. Andrew says, "Getting vaporized by Galvatron must have stung a bit." Yeah, you know, it's not the first time I've had this question. So, you know, in the movie, basically they had to give Leonard Nimoy something to do, so they had him come in and destroy Starscream. And, you know, I don't think that was the right choice for the story at all, you know. Let me tell you something. If Galvatron had shown up and he had teamed up with Starscream, he would have had an extra ally in order to fight Rodimus later. If you watch the movie, Galvatron's like all by himself trying to stop Hot Rod from, you know, becoming the ruler of the Autobots, and we don't want that. Imagine, if you will, if Galvatron teamed up with Starscream. I mean, you know, if it wasn't for Starscream, Megatron would never have met Unicron for that whole design rebuild. He has Starscream to thank for that. Yes. Oh, this thing gets uncomfortable sometimes. It crunches all my manly bits. I'm in a good mood, though. So I have a question from Michael McDevitt. That's a great name. I should change my name to a Mick or something. I should change my name to something. Never mind. Michael just had a birthday, actually. Let's all say happy birthday to Michael. And he says, "How is the Transformers War for Cybertron series?" You know, I'm glad you asked, Michael. I'm not sure you'll be so glad. But it's a horrible wreck. And it's not called War for Cybertron. It's called Siege War for Cybertron. Okay, Siege. And this is interesting because the exact day that the show came out, there was a bunch of Antifa people who were doing like Zoom chat organizing for like burning down buildings and rioting and trying to get blacks to join in, which is what, you know, they're usually women, young girls that hate the world. They're full of pathos instead of logos. And they were saying we want a sage. We really like the sage.
Farther than we can see or understand. our idea of a just and livable future. And I think these wide awake actions are a perfect example. But yeah, what are these wide awake actions? Time to tell you. So the Wide Awakes were a mass youth movement who turned anti-abolitionist representatives' lives into waking nightmares. Sustained and radical action to the moral injustice of slavery. They must fight for true abolition and complete the unfinished work of Reconstruction. That's why we're all here, is that the work was never done. The uprisings for Black lives are the broadest protests and movement U.S. history, and for the first time ever, we are seriously talking about defunding the police. We bring these failed and corrupt institutions to their goddamn knees. Okay, so this month-long siege that we're going to wage to break down these anti-democratic walls in fear of you, this is how it's going to go down. And let me just say that I love the term siege because I feel like that's exactly what we're going to do. And I'll encourage you to go read the Wikipedia page for what a siege is, because have that expectation. Police and ICE locking up Black and brown people while we're all here, the climate crisis. And so all of this shit is the anger we feel when we look back on this disaster of a country. That will only be the beginning. From there, we're going to launch 2 weeks of sustained escalation to deliver a generational mandate, a new normal. Every politician we elect, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. And we are absolutely fucking ready to go to battle. But it can't all begin in November. Rome was not built in a day, and it was also not sieged in a day. In fact, it was sieged over the course of 1 year and 9 days, which was a fact I learned today.
And if you watch the movie, it's basically the Autobots are Antifa. They're Autobot Antifa. You know, and you know this because Megatron is a fascist leader. He's a fascist leader. In fact, there's literally a Hitler flag right next to him. And of course, they tried to give him these lips because they wanted to be able to do lip expressions because they've been trying to, they're trying to make him look like Donald Trump. So they got to see if they can manipulate his face around and do weird things with his lips. But I loved StarScream in this. StarScream was an identitarian. He was worried about race impurity.
I hear that Megatron wants to reformat the Autobots. I find his plan disgusting.
You're treading dangerous ground.
If you ask me, that would dilute our race as Decepticons, ruining our honorable warrior heritage. Can you imagine one of them as one of us?
Yeah.
Finally, a StarScream I can get behind. The StarScream was like, how dare we unite all the Autobots and the Decepticons using some weird program. He's like, that'll impurify the race. What racism is doing in a show about robots, I don't know, but it's great. You can also tell that they made the eyes of the robots really, really blue and really, really red because that's a subliminal thing they do around election time to try and tell you to vote for the Democrats. It's just a thing that they do. I run on about this a lot. You know, the Tesseract and these things, you know, they make everything look bright, rich, textured blue so that it tells you that every godlike power out there means that you're a Democrat or something like that. It's kind of nonsense. And there's a lot of girl power in this. There's no girls in the Decepticon side in the show, but the girls like Alita 1, who's basically Hillary to 1, because we know Hillary has a vagina at 2016. I get tired of saying this. It's like, I don't want the politics in my shows. And I got to say, I think a lot of hardworking people put their effort into making this show. You know, just because everything on Netflix is propaganda and most of it has something to do with transhumanism and distracting you from whatever the elite are doing, just printing money and treating you like garbage. You know. And of course, at the end of Siege, they all the Autobots, the Antifa bots, they leave the planet as refugees, which is interesting because in the original show, Teletran 1 came with the Sky Spy and created all the bots. You know, created the emergency response of the Decepticons came out first, and then the Autobots. And that's because it's the Omega, it's the last act of Cybertron, it's Megatron. Anyways, not Mega Trump. I always do these things so late at night. What else do I have to say? You know, the guy on YouTube, Dank StarScream, who I hope nobody thinks this guy is me. He's not the same as me. He's not me. I'm not using some other name or something on YouTube, but he does comment a lot. Dank StarScream had asked me what I think of the War for Cybertron toy line, and that it's heavily inspired by G1. And I think I would say that I don't collect the toys anymore, and I haven't done stop motion for a while. But I think a lot of effort goes into these things, and they do try and make them sellable. They try and see what new things they can do that they haven't done before. You know, they try and impress you with their skill. And I think if I was buying toys right now, I might look at the Siege line and say, you know, that's pretty good stuff. You certainly can't keep buying the stuff from the 80s because the plastic is withering away and falling apart. I'm thinking of actually doing a sword video, not this sword, but my other sword, and maybe chopping up some of my old toys just to see what happens, just for fun. Let me know if you want to see that, Internet. And I think that's all my questions, you know, which is great. Hopefully I answered your questions, Internet. I'm not sure it's been that exciting, but if you have good questions for me and you want to engage with StarScream, then you can. You can engage with me whenever you want. You know, let me know. Ask me a question, give me a suggestion, and I'll make a video. As for now, ruler of the galaxy StarScream, I'm out. Have a good day. Ugh, I'm sweaty. Oh man, I'm sweaty. Bright eyes, how can you feel so real? Bright eyes, burning with fire. How can your eyes that burn so brightly suddenly burn so pale? Bright eyes. I remember that song. Bright eyes, burning with fire. Bright eyes, how can you feel so fair? How can those eyes that burn so brightly suddenly burn so pale? Bright eyes.